How about you be on your back the whole game too, you punk?
Yeah, but you gon' feel it, Cooley. I'm telling you, you gon' feel it.
I told you keep that camera running, you might miss something.
We're going to be in your face and letting you know the real talk.
This is the NFL, which stands for Not For Long.
And welcome to the Not For Long Pro Football Show, Playoff Edition. Noah Groniger, Clint Schweitzer. Subscribe on YouTube. Get us some likes there. We're also on iTunes. If you want to listen to it, you're at the gym, you just need something to listen to.
Yeah.
Can't watch the video while you're working out, pumping iron. iTunes is where you can find us at. We're talking all this NFL wildcard playoff action. We've got a great guest coming up talking about it with us. Arizona Cardinals defensive line coach, also played for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Brenston Buckner, a very big guest for us, a big man, a big guest.
12-year NFL career.
Yes.
He was an all ACC performer at Clemson. So his Clemson Tigers are playing for the national championship. Brenston Buckner coming on the show, 12-year NFL career, current defensive line coach with the Arizona Cardinals. So we're going to get his thoughts on some of these wild card matchups here on the Not For Long Wild Card Bonanza weekend.
Yes, and what went wrong with his Arizona Cardinals? Everyone was expecting them to be in these playoffs. They're in the NFC Championship game last year with the Panthers. They both fall short. They both missed the playoffs. So we'll have to ask them what went wrong.
Well, guys, we want to make sure that you guys check out our 2016 Pro Football Entertainment Awards. That was our video from earlier in the week. Make sure you check that out.
Yeah.
Because we get a little, we're pretty serious. This is the Not For Long show. We got Sean Salisbury. This is hard hitting.
There's no funny business when you got Sean Smack Unfiltered every week.
Which we will have coming up here.
Yes.
Going to be talking about the Giants-Packers matchup, I believe.
Keys to success for each team. Unfiltered, as always.
But earlier in the week, we did our awards. We were able to let the hair down a little bit, have some fun, give out some funny awards. It's a funny show.
It's a funny
Check it out.
video.
But not here, because this is the Not For Long Pro Football Wild Card Bonanza. And
these are the
so
playoffs.
much for joining us.
This is single elimination. Loser goes home. Winner advances. The Chiefs have to face one of these teams next weekend. Is it the Steelers, the Texans, the Raiders? Who's it going to be? Who you got?
You got this very good, daunting voice coming in, almost like very PA announcer-esque. And you say that, and I'm looking over there at that Houston Texans, Oakland Raiders matchup, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to say it in a voice like this. Welcome. We got the Texans. We got the Raiders.
Osweiler, Connor Cook. Who's going to take it?
Hey, maybe there's some intrigue there, only in that who's going to be able to prevail. Which quarterback is going to be able to rise above? Will we see Tom Savage take over for Osweiler mid-game? Will Matt McGloin get healthy at some point during this situation?
Is it easy as saying just the winner goes and just loses to the New England Patriots, unless the Dolphins can somehow beat the Steelers?
And then they get to lose to the Chiefs. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, the Dolphins, they did beat the Steelers the regular season, 200-plus yards for Jay Ajayi, but they had Ryan Tannehill. They were a different team back then. I just don't see them getting it done with Matt Moore.
Talk about a different team, and we gave our award, a little spoiler, the Ernest Saves Christmas Award goes to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Yes, absolutely. And you know what? He saved Christmas. He saved the season. And now their reward is going to be to take on an always opportunistic Giants team at home. The Packers have some trouble in the secondary. They're moving receivers out there. They're struggling. They're moving receivers into the backfield. They don't have much of a running game, which you don't really need when you have Aaron Rodgers, who's an absolute freak show right now.
I don't know. Ty Montgomery's doing some good things in the backfield for them as a running back. It's crazy that would happen. Maybe the Chiefs could take a note from them and do that with Tyreek Hill out of the backfield. We don't see that enough. But yeah, the Giants, a wild card team. You got to be wary of them. You got to watch out. The Cowboys are hoping they go down. They don't want to face the Giants a third time. They lost to them twice. Eli Manning in the wild card round. That's dangerous for anybody.
Well, the Detroit Lions had several chances to shore up the NFC North. They were unable to do so, including a home loss to the Packers this past Sunday night. And the consolation prize for you is to go to Seattle and take on the Seattle Seahawks, a team that a lot of people aren't really sure about right now. Talk about can't run the ball. That's the Seahawks right now.
Thomas Rawls
I'm
not
really
getting
questioning what their offense brings to the table. I think that could be a good game out in Seattle.
I think the main problem with the Seattle Seahawks is their center, Justin Britt from Missouri. He's not getting it done up there. Your thoughts on Justin Britt? They just cannot have a run game. He's been moved from right tackle to center. They're trying different position. He is not getting it done.
Pro Football Focus has him rated as the third best lineman on the Seattle Seahawks team. I always listen to Pro Football Focus, okay?
They had William Barty as the best corner in the league back in 2002. I'm not listening to Pro Football Focus.
Don't listen to us, guys. We want to go ahead and welcome our guest at this time.
Brenston Buckner, former Pittsburgh Steeler, drafted by them in the second round. You go on, play with greats Greg Lloyd, Rod Woodson, and Kevin Green. You guys go on, you lose that Super Bowl. Just how did that all go down? You're drafted in the second round by the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing with greats like Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, Rod Woodson. You play under Bill Cowher. You guys in 95, you make it to the Super Bowl. You have a great run, but unfortunately you face those vaunted Dallas Cowboys. You gave them a run for their money. But what was it like that season? Talk about your run up to that Super Bowl and then the final Super Bowl loss against the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, the run was great. People don't understand. When we went into our bye week after week 7, we was 3-4.
Yeah.
Rod Woodson was out with a torn ACL. We had just got humiliated on national TV by the Cincinnati Bengals. And I remember Bill Cowher coming in after the bye week and said, hey, we're going to take this season one game at a time. We got 9 one-game seasons left. We're going to play each week and we're not going to leave any bullets in the chamber. We're going to use everything we got, and we're going to move on to the next week. We went on to win 8 straight games, losing the last game of the regular season to Green Bay. But then we went into the playoffs. We started over from scratch, and we got into that groove. We had backup players playing here, but everybody had this chemistry. And we went all the way to the Super Bowl, and we got here against the Dallas Cowboys. All I remember was the first time. It was new for everybody on our team. Nobody on our team had ever played in the Super Bowl, and Dallas had veterans all over the place. And after we got through the first quarter, it became a game. We knew right then we belonged. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening for us, but defensively, we held Emmitt Smith to 20. I think he had 35 yards rushing. We shut their run down, but they made the big defensive plays that kept them in the game. But it was a great season. It was an experience that I would never ever forget. You always want to win it, but I look back at all the guys that never had a chance to play in the Super Bowl. At least I can say I was blessed to play in one.
Well, you played another one back in 2003. You found another home after bouncing around to another couple teams. They played for the Bengals. And then moved on to the Carolina Panthers, where you found a home on one of the greatest defensive lines maybe in football history with yourself, Mike Rucker, Julius Peppers, Chris Jenkins. What a defensive line that was, and one of the most entertaining Super Bowls of all time. You run up against Tom Brady and the Patriots, once again fall just short, but once again, what a great game that was, getting the Panthers to their first Super Bowl. That had just to be a great feeling, and playing on that defensive line, what was it like playing with those guys, because that was one of the best in pro football history, man.
It was great. It was easy for me. I was surrounded by great players. Julius Peppers was a young freak. He was a phenom. A half basketball player, half football player that could turn it on and take over a game at any time. Then Chris Jenkins was just a monster. We used to call him a mutant. It was 6'4.5", 330 pounds, could rush the passer, could stop the run. Could play defensive end, defensive tackle. Mike Rucker, a business guy, business mindset, brought a hard work ethic to our defensive line. Then you had me, almost a veteran guy who had been around in the league, that could be the glue to bring it all together. And the one thing that we had chemistry. We all knew what each one of us was capable of. We all held each other accountable. But the one thing about it that made us so good, we cared about each other off the field. We was close friends off the field. We spent more time off the field together than we did at practice. So we had that kind of chemistry that we could look at one another. We knew what time it was. I knew what Pep was thinking on this play. He knew what I was thinking. But a lot of credit got to go to the guys we had backing us up. We had Al Wallace and Shane Burton. Kendall Moorhead, 3 guys that was capable of starting anywhere in the NFL. They was our backups. And they used to say all the time, y'all got to play hard, because if you let one of us go on the field, you may not get your position back. So we had a nice competition amongst one another that just drove us to be good. We used to say, look, we ain't got to be the reason we win the game, but let's not be the reason we lose the game. And that's the pride we had as a defensive line, and it carried us to the Super Bowl.
Well, on the offensive side of you guys, you also played with the great Steve Smith. He just retired from the Baltimore Ravens. Can you just talk about him, his toughness, him and Hines Ward, maybe the 2 toughest, smaller guy receivers in the NFL, and just how he's going to be remembered amongst NFL players?
Steve Smith is going to be remembered as pound for pound the toughest football player that ever played this game. I was fortunate enough when we drafted Steve Smith in Carolina, he came in and people say he'll be nothing more than a special teamer, a guy that can only return kicks. And it drove him crazy. It drove him to tears plenty of days that he was like, people are disrespecting me thinking I can only return kicks. So I used to tell him all the time, well, go out here and become the best kick returner in the league until they open the door for you to be a wide receiver. All he did his rookie year was go to the Pro Bowl as a returner. But when we signed Ricky Proehl a year later, and Ricky Proehl really helped Steve to understand the game. he taught Steve the little nuances of becoming a wide receiver and using his God-given ability, to his advantage. And once that clicked in, that Super Bowl year, Steve Smith, I seen him become one of the greatest receivers of all time. His tenacity, his anger in which he played with, and his just competitiveness, it drove us as a team. It drove him, and he didn't want to be denied because every time he ran a route, he said the only thing he heard in his ear, "You're too small. You're not supposed to do this." So he always played anger. And so now he's going to go down. I think he's a Hall of Famer, for sure, Hall of Famer. I think he's led the way for smaller type wide receivers to come in and have great careers, because you can measure guys' height, size, and weight, but you can never measure that heart. They ain't came up with a tool to measure that heart when it comes to stepping on the football field.
Well, that goes for you as well. 12-year NFL career. It was a wonderful one for yourself. Now, of course, the defensive line coach with the Arizona Cardinals. And we got to ask you about a couple guys. Of course, you guys traded for Chandler Jones. Made a good impact for you guys this year. And also, a guy we know very well, a guy we covered here at the University of Missouri as we are here in Kansas City, Marcus Golden, third in the NFL, tied for third with 12.5 sacks. What did you see out of those two? What kind of an impact did Chandler Jones make? And to talk about Marcus Golden and what makes him so special.
Well, Chandler was a great pickup for us. Chandler was a young pass rushing guy who's capable of putting his hand down in the dirt, being the defensive line. When we got him from New England, you probably heard me scream all the way down there in Missouri. I was just like, I was elated because he's a guy that could change the game at any moment. He's great in the locker room. He was great for Marcus. Marcus being a young guy coming out of Missouri, he needed that big brother type guy to play across from him. A guy who, Chandler had Super Bowl experience, played for New England, and Chandler once, he showed Marcus how to work. But the one thing about Marcus Golden, we call him Junkyard Dog here, because you're not going to outwork this guy. That's the one thing we saw on film. Everybody was like, Shane Ray, you got to look at Shane Ray. And me and linebacker coach Larry Foote, every time we turned on the field, we was like, who is this Golden guy? This is the guy that's running 50 yards downfield, making a tackle. This is the guy that's going to make those plays that you don't show up on the stat sheet. And ever since he stepped on this, to our franchise, he's been 100 miles per hour. His tenacity, his willingness to get better, just his competitiveness. But the one thing that we all love about him, that he's so humble that every day is, Coach, how can I get better? Coach, how can I prove all these people wrong? They said my arms were too short to be a pass rusher in the NFL. And I tell them, you Steve Smith. I heard a guy named Steve Smith get told the same thing. He had a Hall of Fame career. As long as you don't even lose that chip on your shoulder, you're going to be a great one. And he comes to work every day. He comes to work. He loves it. We love him. And I think he's just at the tip of the iceberg. This is a guy that's capable of the way he plays. Once he started to understand what people are doing to him on first and second down, you're looking at a guy that can push 18 to 19 sacks in a year.
Yeah, that was the knock on him coming out, was just he had the shorter arms. But what you're saying is, and if you can imagine, Shane Ray and Marcus Golden on the same defensive line at Missouri back in 2014, an SEC East championship. If I'm hearing it right, what you're saying is, hey, we like this Ray guy, but maybe Marcus Golden was maybe the better prospect coming out of college. Is that what you guys were talking about?
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Ray had all the bells and the whistles. He had the bells and the whistles. He was like going to buy a car and they already had the rims on it and the tent and all that, which is great. But you look over there, there was a nice car sitting over there that you say, wow, they haven't put all that stuff on yet. I can design it the way I want to. And that's what's Marcus Golden. But in this business, you got to have a chip on your shoulder. And, guys like that are the foundation of your team. You can't fill your team up with already supposed to be stars. You want that one guy, when he shows up to work every day, it's something in him that's telling him, you're not supposed to be here. You got to prove people wrong. And Marcus Golden was that guy. Like I said, just watching him chase running backs and quarterbacks down from behind, going inside, fighting the double teams to get the stops on 3rd and 1 and 4th and inches. That was the kind of guy that we wanted to build our team around, and that's what he brings to the table. And I'm sort of glad that I say he failed us, because there's a lot of teams ahead of us that missed out on him. So I'm glad he was at that spot and we was able to draft.
Well, you guys in the Carolina Panthers were in the NFC Championship game last year, both coming in this season with very high expectations. Can you guys pinpoint one or two things that might have happened that kind of derailed your season?
Well, I think with a lot of expectation, it comes a lot of pressure. I think for us, I think early on in the season, our guys, we pressed too much. Trying to live up to expectations and not understanding, look, just hard work, do what you do, enjoy the process and let it pan their way out. And I think we started to press too early, and, we lost some games that we were used to winning. We're built the team to go all the way to the last second on the clock, and we won those games our first 3 years here. But this year we couldn't find a way somebody to make the play, because I think everybody was just pressing. And then you begin to have injuries like everybody else, and and then we dropped our fist. But then once we got to the point where, like, hold up, it shouldn't be no pressure. This is what we're made for. And then you see over the last quarter of the season, we played our best ball. But in the NFL, it's what you do in September, October that make your November and December easier. And we got too far behind the 8 ball, and it sort of backfired on us. But now, now it's a learning experience. We lost some games, but we need to learn from that. We need to know when we go train and we go work out, when we attack the off season, we got to attack with that in mind, not to put the pressure on yourselves, but be so prepared that when you step on the field, pressure you're applying and you're not feeling it.
Well, we got the wild card coming up this weekend. Of course, the playoffs are underway. Always, it's never fun to watch them at home as a player or a coach from an NFL team. But Seattle wins the NFC West again this year, or after you guys won it a year ago. Seattle's in the driver's seat there in that division. They're going to play the Detroit Lions. What do you see from some of these games? I mean, going forward, you got Tom Brady in the AFC for about the 17th year in a row. I mean, I know your team's not in it, Brenston, but give us kind of a look at what you see coming in here in the playoffs and who you see maybe advancing.
Well, I think this wild card is going to be, you got some pretty good matchups. You start with Detroit and Seattle. Seattle is a hard place to play. You go up there, you better pack your lunch, because that defense comes out ready to play. If it's a preseason game or it's a scrimmage, you're going to run into some grown men out there on that football field. And Seattle offensively hadn't been as explosive as they have in the past, but I think it's a defensive team now. I think Detroit's going to have their hands full. You're going to have to be able to protect your quarterback, because guys like Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, they're coming. He's going to get hit, and he might not like it. But you better make sure you protect them. But then you look at Pittsburgh and Miami. It's a rematch of a game that Miami ran rampant on Pittsburgh during the regular season. I think Adai had over 200 yards rushing in that game, but now he's going to Pittsburgh. It's going to be close to 5 degrees. A terrible tower. And Pittsburgh are not playing their best football. And it's the first time you get Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and the running back playing in a playoff game together. So, I think Pittsburgh is the favorite in that. But anytime you talk about playoffs and you see Tom Brady in New England there, the road is going through Foxborough, and that's a hard place. That's a hard place to knock them off when the playoffs come.
Oh, yes.
But I think there's some teams that are capable of doing it. Kansas City has a great
Yep.
team. You look at Oakland and Houston. Oakland, only because they're in the division with Kansas City, doesn't have second place wrapped up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They just won their division, and Houston is going back to their starting quarterback who they benched 4 weeks ago. So, how is that's gonna pan out? And then you look at Green Bay and New York, and we all know that whenever Manning goes up to Green Bay and wins, it normally ends with the Giants being in the Super Bowl. But then you got to look at the young guns out there in Dallas, who you got to take your hat off to. Dallas with a young quarterback after Romo got hurt. Ezekiel Elliott has been everything that a rookie running back is not supposed to be. He's been exactly
Yes.
having the best rushing season for a rookie running back since Eric Dickerson. That's some great company to be in. I think the playoffs are going to be great. But I see the home teams sort of advancing, except for I think Oakland gets Houston, and I believe the Giants will go in there and beat Green Bay.
You got that Clemson pride. You bleed orange. Are they going to get revenge? What's your prediction for this game? Does Clemson come out on top and beat Nick Saban in this championship game?
I really think they do. And it's not just my Clemson pride talking. I think Alabama's a great team. I think this is probably the greatest college defense I've ever seen with my eyes personally. But I think Clemson defense is not far away, but I think Clemson offense is far ahead than what Alabama offense brings right now. I think their young quarterback is going to be good in his own right, but I like Deshaun in this game getting a chance to finish what he did last year. So I take Clemson Tigers in this game 35-24.
Well, there you have it, folks. 35-24. Clemson comes out on top. They get that national championship. We got to hold your feet to the fire here, Brenston. Don't feel pressured to pick the Chiefs just because you're on our show here in Kansas City. But who do you got in the Super Bowl, and who's coming away with the Lombardi Trophy?
I work for the Cardinals. I love the Cardinals, but if you take me, if they fire me tomorrow, I'm going to be black and gold because I'm a diehard Steelers fan. So I think Pittsburgh goes to the Super Bowl. I think they go into New England and they beat Tom Brady, without Grunt, and I think they meet the Dallas Cowboys to get revenge over what Dallas did us in Super Bowl.
Yes, I love it.
That's a good one. Hey, Brenston, you've been so kind with your time, man. We can't thank you enough, and we got to keep in touch as the playoffs go on. As we go into next year, we're going to be watching, going to be rooting for the Cardinals next year as your team makes some strides going into the offseason. We can't wait to see it. Can't thank you enough for being on today with us, Brenston. We really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good luck to Clemson and Arizona Cardinals next year.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to Brenston Buckner for coming on. He bleeds that black and yellow, although he's a Cardinal. If he got fired, it's all about those Steelers. He sees them advancing against the Patriots and maybe all the way to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Great to hear from him. And he's talking also about his Clemson Tigers. He likes the Tigers to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide.
That's I don't know about that
another game, another show for a different day. We also do a college football show, Sweet Home SEC. Be sure to check that out where the other half of his interview will be. But I'll tell you what, love Brenston, love his passion, love his knowledge, love his insight. And he likes the Steelers going all the way, and he talked about the Steelers going to, New England and winning, but he did not mention the fact they're going to have to come to Kansas City first.
Yeah, he just blatantly disregarded the Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs are the 2 seed. They got the good stroke of good luck. The Oakland Raiders have Matt McGloin go down. They played terribly at Denver. Denver shuts them down. Put 24 on the Raiders. The Raiders are dropped down to the 5 seed. The Chiefs are sitting there with, to me, the second best chance to get to the Super Bowl behind New England in the AFC. But that's another story for another week because this is not the wild. That's the divisional round. This is the wild card round. Sean Salisbury is going to have more for us on the Packers-Giants game.
He is just the keys to success for either team. And with that, we go to Sean Salisbury for Sean Smack Unfiltered.
All right, fellas, thanks. Let's talk a little playoff. Well, there's a lot of games going on. The matchup that intrigues me, well, all of them do. The matchup that intrigues me the most, I think, is the Giants heading in to Lambeau Field. And there's so many different sidebars to this. Eli going in, he plays comfortable there. The Giants offense, once you get by Odell Beckham, they're not very good. Yet the Packers secondary is beat up, so how do you defend Odell Beckham? Then you go to, well, Eli hadn't had a great year, but he's great in the postseason. We've seen that before, 2 Super Bowls. Then you go to Green Bay's side. Ty Montgomery's running it. They create mismatch problems out of the backfield. And Aaron Rodgers is as hot as anybody on the planet. And their receiving core is great against the back end of the Giants. It's good. So the biggest key matchup to me is this. Can Dom Capers' defense just roll coverage and consistently keep Odell Beckham from the home run? Do not let him take one of those slants or hitches and take it to the house. You just got to stop that. That's how you're going to have to prevent that. You can't let their best player beat you. That's number one. Number two, on the other side for Green Bay, how do they counter? They've got to run the ball a little bit, but just give Aaron Rodgers a clean pocket. If you can give Aaron Rodgers a clean pocket and they have the opportunity for him to stand and deliver as hot as he is at home, I think the Packers can pull this game out. Those are the key matchups. And in that process, with the Giants are playing such great defense, what will Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, do to try to change it up with that offensive line to manipulate it so Rodgers isn't comfortable? But the one thing about it is Rodgers is so good at throwing off balance, it may not matter. I think this is a great football game. I just think overall, Aaron Rodgers is more ready to beat the Giants defense than the other weapons on the Giants, not named Odell Beckham, are to beat the Green Bay Packers. I like the Packers, which makes them dangerous, and they may be finding themselves on their way to Houston for the Super Bowl. Back to you guys, and Happy New Year.
Great stuff, Sean. He's going to be taking us all the way to the Super Bowl, and so are we here at the Not For Long Pro Football Show, all the way to the Super Bowl, and then we'll go away for a while.
Yeah, you won't see us or hear from us. We'll just, unless you like college
big deal.
basketball, you may rise and fire. We have a hoops talk. We got that.
We do a lot of shows. And guys, be sure to check out our website, GreatAmericanSportsNetwork.com. It's where you'll
at
find it all.
GASN Sports on Twitter. Love the interaction. Keep it coming. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We got lots of videos, lots of new shows. Letting our hair down a little bit. If you like some funny stuff, some funny videos, we do that. So
and you mentioned at the onset, we're now on iTunes. So Not For Long Pro Football Show on iTunes. Subscribe if you prefer the audio format. I know that you come to the show, you come to the Not For Long Show for all the bells and whistles that we have here on the Palatial Great American Sports Network set.
Two great-looking guys, great-looking helmets, a football, a set. We painted this wall ourselves. It's beautiful. We got this nice TV screen up here, and I'd love every second of it.
Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching. Enjoy the wild card round, and we will see you back next week for our divisional round bonanza.
Cheers!